Hi there. My name is Madison McElwain, the co-host and co-founder of The Room podcast. As the world around us continues to change, it's important that we continue to open the door in new ways. I'm super excited for this segment and expect a few of them over the weeks that complement a lot of the themes that we're discussing on our longer form The Room podcast stories. I can't wait for you to hear more. Let's open the door.
Warren, first of all, so nice to meet you. Thanks so much for joining us today in The Room.
So excited.
We're glad to have you. We already touched a little bit, I guess, on your origin story with van life, but let's go a little bit further back. Tell us where you grew up and how that's shaped your view of the world.
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan, a fairly rural town. And what stands out in that community is how unevenly technology advances depending on your region or your industry you're in. And so I, throughout high school and college, I would build websites for local small businesses to help pay tuition. And this is just getting businesses online for the first time. And what stood out is how much impact a small technology shift can have for people who have been historically just left behind. And so I bring that into my career today, working with doctors where they're working in high friction environments, difficult workflows, and really critical work that they're just being left behind on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to dive a bit more into that. Speaking of what you're building, for our audience who might not be as familiar with Joyful Health, could you explain, maybe from a nephew, 5-year-old, think about it from a kindergarten POV, how would you describe Joyful Health?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know healthcare is broken and doctors are doing important work, but doctors can spend 2 to 3 times as much time on administrative work than actually seeing patients, just to understand what's happening with their payments and if they're going to get paid or not. So with Joyful Health, we're bringing all of this information into one platform. Let doctors understand at a glance what's happening with their business. Let them focus on what's really important, which is patient care, and ensuring that clinics that might be at risk in rural communities can stay open and care can be accessible to these most at-risk places.
That's incredible. Did you start in Michigan?
We started in New York. It's local. We have just opened up a large Michigan facility, though.
Okay,
so we're excited.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So expansion is on the horizon, or it's already happening.
Yeah.
Before we dive more into the current product and how you're building that, would love to touch on your former life at Twilio. You worked there for many years. Tell us a little bit about what you were building in that ecosystem, and then ultimately how you got conviction to leave.
Yeah, I mean, complete pivot from my background in NLP and machine learning at Twilio and previously startups into healthcare, but really this catalyzing moment of COVID 2020 where there's this growing rhetoric on the importance of healthcare workers. So I went out and got my EMT license just to volunteer, help out nights and weekends. And what was most stark when I started was just I felt how left behind and how big the gap was between what we said was important as a society and what we were really investing in. And so seeing this friction of just what it takes to provide care that's not actually patient outcomes spurred me to leave these old rules behind and just work on healthcare full time.
Let's go into the weeds a bit on actually who you're servicing and the problems that you're solving for your end users. There's such a splintering of these experiences that you're alluding to in the payments flow. Walk us through a bit of why you think that is and how it's going to change with Joyful.
Data lives in many different systems for a clinic, and there's no way to understand at a glance what's happening with their finances. We let them stay in their existing systems. We pull data out, and we give them for the first time, a clear view across their facility of what's happening with their finances end to end, what they're being paid on, and what's missing. Doing that is all the base layer for letting us do what's next, which is the real world impact, which is chasing down revenue and making sure that they're being paid. That base layer allows the automation of workflows that were historically done by humans or just so manual that you lose money trying to collect this money.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like everyone can understand that from an individual standpoint. You've ever gone to a provider who doesn't take insurance or allows for insurance reimbursement, it's a headache and a half to even get 20 cents to the dollar.
What's shocking, I think, is that the pain we're feeling as patients is really just a ripple down effect of what clinicians are feeling.
Right.
So oftentimes I think we blame clinics or doctors for what we're having to pay out of pocket, but really they're just passing along the information that they're getting from insurance and they're also lost. We're really on the same side and we've often been turned against each other.
Interesting. So who's your end user then? Is it the clinicians themselves?
It's clinicians and practice owners. Okay. These are people who are opening small businesses and maybe are running a clinic for the first time, are doctors, but also business owners.
Yeah. What's the sentiment about AI?
Externally with customers, I don't think that that's forefront for them in this industry. What they care about is outcome. They're stressed and they're trying to make patients' lives better. So however we can get that done, they're excited about it. Internally, we're very excited because this is the first time where it's actually feasible to service this industry. Historically, large hospital systems or large practices could employ rooms of analysts and maybe manually reconcile the data between these fragmented systems. But small clinics or medium-sized clinics just didn't have opportunity to hire the staff and to make this work.
Yeah.
So they've been completely without solutions until now. For the first time, they can actually get the same effect of a large hospital system, but in a clinic.
Wow. I mean, your background in NLP, by the way, I love that word, kind of vintage now, right? Like we don't even say NLP, natural language processing anymore, at least in my circles.
No, I need to start losing my old vocabulary.
Oh no, you're fine.
I say machine learning. I think people give me a weird look now.
Yeah, exactly. Like what's ML ops, right? Or whatever it might be. It's so funny. I mean, the words change, but the thesis is the same, of course. How has that background for you really informed the unlock of why the now is today for Joyful?
AI is always a tool to get the next thing done, right? But I think what we're seeing right now is an acceleration of what's possible on a weekly cadence. And what that means though is we need to stay up to date, and that's more difficult than ever. In tech is an industry where if you're not ahead, you're behind. And now being behind might be on a weekly cadence. And luckily, companies like Vercel, they handle a lot of the things that we maybe can't keep our pulse on, but we need to be on the forefront of in order to stay competitive and be moving forward. AI today looks like a tool, but and we can't lose sight of the user empathy, but it's crucial to make this work.
Yeah, no, and also the data that underpins the tool, right? I mean, part of the reason we're loving using Harmonic, who we're throwing our cafe today with, is because their data is actually powering some of our go-to-market efforts at Vercel. We're selling to startups, and we need to know what is the context of this startup? Is it backed by the institutional VCs who are betting their entire firm on these companies? If so, we want to give them a little extra leg. We want to give them a little extra support and love because we really fully believe the future of the internet is going to be powered by startups like yours, and want to make sure that those special experiences happen for them.
So cool.
Well, that's a fun job. I'm jealous of myself, I suppose. When you guys are thinking of building, your engineering background permeates, of course, the culture inside of Joyful. What are some AI products that you're really jazzed about, whether for personal use or for your company?
Personal use over the company. Like I said, it's ever adapting. And so I think that we're always, I think what's crucial for startups, and I think I see my friends at larger tech being almost left behind a little bit because they're forced this top-down distribution of tooling. Whereas as we're allowed to use any tool we need to on a day-by-day basis to make sure the job gets done, maybe a big tech may have a hard time doing that. The things we're excited about, I can't say that I could live without my AirPods in and a chatbot LLM to walk around with. I think I've worked through some of my hardest problems at work before I even have to bring in other people. And what we're seeing is ability for everyone in our company to be more autonomous because they have effectively a whole staff of people to work with to get the small tasks done.
Yeah, we have this Slack culture at Vercel that's quite intense, and it's almost hard to stay in the loop on what's going on, especially with product launches. We ship really fast.
Yeah.
And so recently, one of our amazing leaders, he put together an 11 Labs enabled audio recap of Slack and what you missed today in startups.
Are you selling this? Can we get this?
We can work on this together. We can vibe code it for you guys.
I love it.
How fun is that? Truly just taking the thing that no one wants to do, read their Slacks at the end of the day, and quickly turning it into a 7-minute recap. Okay, well, let's talk about the future. Joyful has dominated in creating and solving this huge problem for patients and providers. What does that world order look like for you? Where is Joyful when it's at its fullest?
The hot take today is it's gone beyond the fun of tech, and now it's an obligation. It's no longer enough just to build stuff because you want to, and it's a moment in society where there's an opportunity for the wealth disparity and for opportunity gap to increase, and it's an obligation for us all to work on things that make sure that we can level the playing field rather than increase the disparity.
Yeah, I mean, something I think a lot about as someone who was really non-technical product manager for my first job out of college, the capacity to actually speak like a developer today and like actually understand what's going on under the hood with these vibe coding products like V0 is incredible. And I actually think there's such an opportunity to step into the developer definition changing. I think it's going to create more jobs. That's kind of my hot take.
I think long term, I think there might be a painful middle period.
Yeah, there usually is.
Yeah, of course. It's more important to retool today than ever.
Incredible. Well, Warren, thank you so much for joining us today in the room and telling us a little bit more about your story with Joyful.
Thank you so much. This is so fun.
Thank you so much for joining us at The Room Podcast. If you want more from The Room every week, subscribe to our newsletter at theroompodcast.com/newsletter. We'll be back next week with a new episode, an inspirational guest, Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. See you in the room.